He passed around a few clippings from the work that he's doing. The Dunkers is an AAU basketball team that John's been working with the last 10 years. He started out with these kids when some of them were in first grade. And now, of course, some of them are in high school. And he's taken these kids off the street, kids who, a lot of them don't have dads. He's actually been a dad to some of them. I know he's had one of them live in his house for the last 2 years. So it's really great work that he's doing. So we wanted to have him back and tell us the whole story about the Dunkers. John has 3 children. He has a 19-year-old son who is in the Navy. He's been in the Navy 1 year. He's got another son who's 16 at Faith School. And he has a 3-year-old little princess who they adopted about 3 years ago. So he's one of our local people. He works at Oscar Winsky full-time, and he dedicates his volunteer time to this Dunkers basketball team. So John, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm not sure how you want to do this. You want to come up here first, or how do you want to do this?
So my name is John Smith. I live here in West Lafayette. I moved here about 10 years ago. As he was saying, I've got 3 kids, 2 of them. When I moved here, I was hoping to follow my shoes and play baseball, but that didn't happen. They wanted to play basketball. So I had to learn how to coach basketball and create a team. And I remember our very first team, I think it was a first grade team. We had 5 kids, took the court. It wasn't pretty. We were the bad news bears. It was ugly. And shortly after that, I remember, I think our first game was over at Jeff, actually it was Tecumseh on a Sunday. And there were a couple little kids sitting there on the sidelines, and they were watching me and didn't think much of it. And I come back the following Sunday, and they were still there. And one of them come over to me, and he said, do you have room on your team? And I was like, well, sure, I've got room. I only have 5 kids. I could use a sub. And I said, have you ever played basketball? And he said, yeah, I play basketball. And I said, can you afford the entry fee? He said, no, I can't afford the entry fee. Can you afford the shoes? Well, I can't afford the shoes. And I said, well, can I talk to your dad? And he goes, I don't have a dad. And I said, well, where's your mom at? And she said, well, she's working 3rd shift, and she works 1st shift, and she's never home. And well, that was kind of touching to me. And I was like, well, come on, I'll split the bill for you. So then next Sunday I was there. I got 2 more kids, and that's kind of how this kind of started. And I'll show the presentation. And if you guys are on Facebook, I do have a Facebook page, and you can actually look some of the things up that you'll see up here. My Facebook page is called Dunkers. It's plural, D-U-N-K-E-R-S, boys, B-O-Y-S, basketball. So it's actually Dunkers Boys Youth Basketball. So that's the Facebook page. Let me get this started. Hope you guys like Purdue, because I use that for the theme song. So this is my team. This is probably in the 2nd grade. I still have 2 of these kids. This is the game I was talking about. My wife was recording it. I have hundreds and hundreds of videos and clips, but I still have 2 of those kids today. One is in high school, and he's doing really well, and he's going to go off to college. And you know, I do this to keep the kids off the streets. Can everybody hear me okay? Turn this down a little bit. But I do this to keep the kids off the streets. Most importantly, not only do we keep them off the streets, but you know, when school's out, you have a whole summer break. And so AAU, for people who don't know what AAU basketball is where you create a team and you can travel or you can stay local. And it's comprised of 3 kids from each school district, and you put them on a team. And as you can see, we practice with the Central Catholic girls, and we were invited down to a Pacers game. We were there actually last night. You'll see that on my Facebook page as well. We played at Purdue halftime shows. I have to do the sound here. There we go. And this is all part of the Pacer stuff. So some of the things that we do, and not only do we do these kind of things, but we are also very involved in the community. We feed the homeless, usually around Thanksgiving or Christmas. We get into rest homes. We're always giving back to the community because I couldn't do this without support of different companies that are helping out and pitching in for some of these fees. To give you an idea what it costs to travel with these kids, each kid that you see down, that's 2 teams I had, so each kid is roughly about $500 to sponsor a kid, and that's just for a uniform and their shoes, not to mention the price of the hotel and the gas and the rental vans and their breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because most of these kids don't have those kind of things when we travel. And like he was saying earlier, I've had a kid, actually, the guy with his thumb up right there, he lived with me 2 years. His mom finally got her act together, and he's doing well now, and he's going to go off to college. And that little guy right there with the glasses, he's been a big part of my life for a long time. I actually do a lot of stuff with the Big Brother, Big Sister program. That's my son right there with the red hair. And that's my other son next to him. And anyway, long story short, so we do these things and I say we, it's myself, me, and my wife is who does all this. And there's a lot of planning that goes involved. And our season starts roughly the end of March and goes all the way through about the middle of August, to give you an idea how long the season is. We played over 100 basketball games last year. We've played anywhere from, we played in Alabama, we played South Carolina, we went out to Washington, I've been down to Georgia, New York, Iowa, Michigan. I think 2 years ago we played in 11 different states. We have a very competitive team, and a lot of these kids don't even play for their high school. And the reason behind that is at the time when they were really young, they didn't have the grades, and so they were just seen as a kid, not as an athlete. And so it really takes somebody to put their arm around them and say, hey, you can do better than this, and show them the right way. And I only have a few rules on my team. Number one is you got to stay in school, and you got to try, and you got to stay off the streets. If you can accomplish that, you got a spot on my team. And most of these guys call me Dad, and it's funny when the game's over, they'll all come over and give me a hug. It's pretty amazing. I do this, not because I want to win a basketball game, it's because I want to change these kids' lives. And we've been invited, and here's Purdue, for instance. We've been invited down to Purdue several different times. They really like what we're doing, and we've been invited down to their practice facility and also on their main court. And so these are some of the things that we're doing. And more importantly, these kids, all they really want is just someone to look up to and someone to mentor them, and because they're just kids, for crying out loud. I mean, at this age, right now, I've got, most of them are 15 and 16 years old, and like I said, I picked these kids up when they were in the first grade, and I'm going to move on to the next slide. That's just kind of a boring slide. But anyway, I've just got thousands of pictures. And, and to give you an idea, fundraising. So 10 years ago, when I was doing this, I didn't have sponsors. I didn't have people to say I'd like to sponsor a kid. I did all this myself. I'd go out on weekends and sell soap and brownies and stand on the side of Walmart selling suckers for bucks with my team. We put in endless hours trying to raise money just so we could afford to do these kind of things. Before we had these nice uniforms, we had just plain T-shirts with a magic marker written on the back. That's how we played basketball. We didn't have a court to go practice on. We'd practice out in the middle of my street. Even in the wintertime, we'd be practicing. We would also practice out in the rain or the snow. But now it's, we're fortunate enough to have a few sponsors that help us out, and we've joined the ball club here in town over off of Lafayette, and we play out at Legacy, which is really nice, and able to have a roof over our head to play some basketball, which is really nice. So this year I've got a total of 9 kids. I've got 2 of them that I've had since the first grade, and out of the 9, 7 of them are kids that would need sponsors, and out of that 7, I've got 6 of them with sponsors. I got 1 left to go. So I'm hoping to get this kid sponsored in the next couple weeks, because otherwise I'm going to have to foot the bill, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. But, it doesn't stop there. Obviously, you talk about transportation, all those kind of things. But these kids, that kid right there, God, he's a great kid. I love that kid. So he lived with me about 2 years, and when he moved in, I'll tell you a true story. So when he moved in with me, he never had a Christmas before. So he had his first Christmas with me, and I asked him, I said, so what do you want for a Christmas present? He goes, I want a new pair of shoes, Coach. I've never had a new pair of shoes. I've got 4 other siblings, and we have to share shoes. And I was like, well, let me get you a pair of shoes. So I bought him a new pair of shoes for Christmas, among some other things. And my wife and I, we were out to dinner one night, and we were cutting across the parking lot, and it was just got done raining, and I looked back, and he's still in the van, and I looked at him, and I said, "You going to come or what?" I said, "I'm hungry." And he goes, "Coach, I can't." I go, "What's the problem?" And he goes, "I don't want to get my new shoes dirty." He said, "Can you carry me?" I looked at him and I said, "You're 13." I said, "I'm not carrying you." I said, how about this? How about I drive you to the front door? And I said, "I don't even drive my wife to the front door." So anyway, yeah, it was pretty cool. And some of the things that you and I take for granted, like having a bed or having a light or having the proper nutrition in your refrigerator, these are the kids that are in our backyard right here. And I don't think that people realize how troubled these kids really are and how poor these kids are. Most of these kids move from Chicago because they're looking for a better lifestyle. And when they get here, the moms are usually working 2 and 3 jobs and don't have time to raise their kids, and they don't have a dad in their life. And so, I do this because I have a big heart, and I just really want to help these kids out. And so I'm going to buzz through these. There's a video I want you to see if I can get to it. Maybe I'll get to it. I think this is it right here, maybe. Here we go. So this is us playing at Purdue. This is really cool. We've done this twice. We were invited down at the halftime show when they played Ohio State, and we were on national TV. This was really, really cool. But yeah, we've done things like this, and this is us playing right on the court at a halftime show. And I think at this age bracket, I think they're probably in about the 5th grade, if I remember right. It's about the 5th grade. But anyway, so that's pretty much what I do. I enjoy doing it. I don't see myself stopping. My wife always says, "So when they are graduated and they're off into college, you're going to keep doing this." And my answer to that is, I said, "I don't know that I can stop. It's just one of those passions that you have." So I most likely somehow will be involved, whether it's at a school level or doing AAU. And what I think I'd like to do is when this team is done, I probably will do something with a school and really get involved in their life and do a little hand holding, make sure they're going to classes and staying after school, getting the help that they need. Because a lot of times you see these kids that are playing high school ball, they're told, "Hey, you either stay after school or get help, or you're not going to be on the team." Well, you got to do more than that. You got to make sure that they're making the grades and getting the things that they need. So that's kind of what I want to do, I think. But anyway, so back to what I was telling earlier. So a lot of these kids, we have an agenda every year. We do things that we give back to the community, and this year we went down to the homeless shelter here in Lafayette. We did it last Thanksgiving, and not only did we serve the homeless, but we cooked over 125 meals that my wife and I, we bought all the food and then had all the kids over at our house. And can you imagine 9 teenage boys in the kitchen trying to cook with my wife? She told me I owe her dinner afterwards. So we cooked a big dinner, a big Thanksgiving dinner actually, and took it down there, fed over 100 homeless people, and the kids were down there serving. And it's right on my Facebook page. You'll see it. It's pretty awesome. They really enjoyed it, and it opens their eyes. And I'll tell you, if I don't put it on the schedule, they'll be the first ones to say, "Hey, Coach, when are we going to the homeless shelter?" I like doing those kind of things, and that's what it's all about. It's seeing and wanting these kids to give back and do better. That's why I do this. But anyways, any questions?
How much does it cost to sponsor a player?
So to sponsor a player is $500. $500 sponsors a player. It gives them about a 6-month season, pays for their shirt, their shorts, their shoes, and all of their entry fees. And everybody always asks me, "Do you have something fancy can we get our name put on their shirt?" Well, I can't have 10 different shirts going down the court, but so that's what typically the costs are. And like I said, I've got 9 players, and out of those 9, 7 of them need sponsors, and out of that 7, I've actually found sponsors for 6 of them. I've got 1 left that I'm looking for a sponsor to help out with his cost. But and these kids come and they go, and I'm going to tell you when I say they come and they go, what I mean by that is they will move. Sometimes they'll go back to Chicago or Gary, and they'll call me up and they'll say, what do I got to do to be on your team when I come back? How do I do this? Because they know that there's always a spot on my team. That little guy you're watching right there being a point guard, he's absolutely amazing. And I really, truly think that some of these kids will play college ball. I don't know at what level. The most important is to keep them off the streets. I mean, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. If you don't have guidance in your life or have a role figure that you can look up to, this is meaningless. Because it's so tempting when they get into high school to steer down a path that. So yeah, I've got kids now. I've got 3 kids. Well, I've got 1 kid that's 6'8" and 2 that are 6'5", and they're dunking. It's pretty impressive to watch this team. Now, are we the best team? Absolutely not. There are some really, really good teams out there, but we're very competitive. And I tell my kids that we don't stop playing. We'll play all the way to the very end. We've been down pretty big before, and we get the last steal in the last bucket, and you thought they just won, $100,000. I mean, they get that excited over it. But so here, I'll show you some more videos. But this is after the game, and yeah, that's Brian. So yeah, absolutely. I heard someone say Brian Cardinal. That's Brian Cardinal. He reached out to me because he knows that this is what I do, and he personally wanted to see these kids and put his arm around them and talk to them. He's actually a mentor. I've actually had the kids down there several times, and he will talk to them. So it's really cool. I'm going to tell you, when I first was doing this, when these kids were in the first grade, we didn't have these uniforms. We had the ones with the numbers on the back, and the other teams, they would laugh at us and poke names at us and poke their fingers at us and called us the street rats. I've heard all kinds of names, but at the end of the day, we're playing basketball, and we're there to play basketball, and they would be surprised how good we are when we get out on the court. Yeah, that's where we're at right now. I've got a sophomore team. I've coached as many as 3 teams before, and let me tell you, there we go. That's the food drive that we just did. So yeah, that's the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I can answer any more questions for you guys.
What's the typical age range on your team at any given time?
So the typical age range always depends on the year that you're coaching. So right now the age range is between 15 and 16. So last year it would have been 14, 15. I've got the same kids each year, year in and year out. I just grow with them. Where a lot of basketball coaches, they if the team wasn't successful, they want to pick up new kids. That's not my philosophy. My philosophy is, I want to grow the kids. If they become an athlete, that's just a feather in their cap.
When you first named the team the Dunkers, do you anticipate that in a few years the kids would actually be dunking the basketball?
So it's a funny story. So when I was coaching first grade, our actual team name was LIL Dunkers, like Lil Dunkers, and I always wanted them to dunk, and I never thought any of them could dunk. But now it's just going, I wish I could dunk. So, any other questions?
John, obviously you have these games on weekends because you have a full-time job. So when are the games?
So the games range, we play a lot of games. Most games are on Saturday and Sunday, some are on Friday night. We practice sometimes 1 or 2 nights a week. We travel. This year I'm hoping that we can just kind of focus in Indianapolis and Chicago region. So we're playing games anywhere from Friday to Sunday, and we're practicing a couple nights a week. And like he was saying, I do have a full-time job. I have a career. I have a wife. I have kids of my own, and so trying to balance all of this stuff. And I remember a couple years ago, I had a kid call me and said that he needed to talk to me, and it was important. And it was my anniversary with my wife. And you try to explain that to the wife that we're going to reschedule our anniversary. I got a kid I got to go pick up. So I ended up picking up the kid, and we were talking to him, and he had some things that he had to get off his chest, and so I told my wife, I said, we're going to go to dinner with him tonight. so they are very much part of my life, and I have an open door policy. The kids come over and anytime they're welcome. We do study groups at my house to make sure that they're on track. I also work with all the counselors to make sure that they're staying in school and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. I've got kids that will show up at my door on a Friday night at 8 o'clock at night and say, hey, I've got nowhere to go this weekend and I'm not sure where mom's at. Can I stay here for the weekend? I mean, that's just kind of how I tell the kids, I'd rather you be at my house than you wondering where your next meal and your next place is going to be. So a lot of these kids will just show up.
How many different schools are represented by you?
I would probably say, it's probably a safe bet to say about 6. I have to go back and look, but I think about 6.
So that pretty well touches all the high schools?
Yep. Yep.
Have you ever asked our foundation for funds?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, he got a grant from the Youth Services Committee
Okay.
back in January. But
Ever asked?
he's not a 503B.
Ah, that's right.
Yeah, they sponsored one of my kids.
Okay.
How are the schools supporting you?
They support me by, I have just about every kid's teacher email address, and they email me how they're doing. I check in with them. I make my kids do summer school if they're struggling in a class, and I reach out to the summer school department, and some of the teachers that were in the summer school let me know how they're doing and what classes that they're registering for and making sure that they're on track to graduate. So that's the kind of support that I get from the teachers.
So it's working.
Oh, absolutely, it's working. I'm going to tell you, there's probably 30 or 40 AAU basketball coaches that are here in our backyard, and there's not many of them that reach out to the school. All they're cared about is just winning a basketball game, and like I said, if we win, that's just a feather in our cap.
I might have missed this at the beginning, but you said you were more of a baseball player?
I was, so I was a big baseball player. I've always been a baseball player and played on a little World League series, and I really wanted my kids to play baseball. And is that me? Oh, okay. So I do baseball, and I was really hoping the kids would play baseball, and then they did it for the first couple of years of their life, and then when they got into live arm, they said, Dad, I don't want a 9-year-old boy throwing a baseball, because he's usually hitting me. So he said, I'm not ready for that. He goes, how about basketball? So we tried basketball out. It just exploded. And I'm going to tell you, it's not only is it fun to coach, but it's just fun to watch.
Did you do any special training to learn the game, or just kind of learn along with?
I did do special training. I've taken several classes. I'm not only took several classes, but I'm certified by the NCAA to coach. I had to take a lot of classes, a lot of night classes. I had to take some referee training. I do all kinds of stuff. I'm first aid certified training. I'm also trained in concussions, and because you have to think about when your child's on the floor, you have to make sure that you're giving your child the best assistance if he was hurt. So there's a lot of things that I do that come at a cost and at your own time that a lot of people don't even think about. But I like to go above and beyond. I want to make sure that I'm giving the kids everything that they possibly can get to succeed.
So they have classes for yelling at referees, is that what you just said?
I wish that they did. I wish. Sometimes I want to take the whistle away and go, what are we whistling for?
Comes natural.
Have you lost any players to high schools? So one of your players is coming up to college, high school, you say this guy's pretty good, I really have no mic being on your team.
Well, you don't lose them in high school because you could play high school seasons a different season than your AAU season. AAU season's out of high school. But what you do lose is other AAU teams that are, say, maybe better, and they dangle some kind of carrot, and they may jump ship. But I've only had 2 or 3 players jump ship, and I would say that most of them come right back the following year and realize that, hey, it's not about winning. There's more important things on the court than winning.
Do you have a favorite baseball team other than the Cubs?
I'm a Cubbies fan.
Go Cubs.
You're not a Dodgers fan. Any other questions?
How does the AAU schedule these games?
So who schedules them?
Yeah.
I schedule the game. So what ends up happening is, because we're a certified team, we're able to look and see where all of the certified events and where all the games are located, whether it's Midwest or South or in the West Coast, and I pick and make my schedule. Now with Adidas really putting a strong schedule together, we're able to stay here in the Midwest and play a lot of Indianapolis and Chicago, where before we were really traveling a lot. So to answer your question, I make the schedule. I'm able to, pick what weekends I want to do things, and one of the things I really strive on is trying not to play like on Mother's Day or Memorial Day weekend, things like that, to where the kids need to be home with family.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.